Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nanta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Boom. Hare Krishna. Alright, welcome everyone. So nice to be here with all of you. And welcome to everyone watching later on YouTube. We're just tuning in. to the spiritual vibration. And we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam 112. So I'm just going to do a quick invocation and dive right in. And everybody here is pretty much seasoned veteran stalwarts. So everybody knows, if you have anything at any time, please just, you can tell me to stop. And I really like the discussion points. So I'll just do an invocation and dive in and see what happens. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet Shrinvatam swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyantasto yabhadrani vidhunoti sahrit satam Nashtaprayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyutama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Okay. Canto 1, Chapter 1, Questions by the Sages. Text 2. Dharma projita kaitavo traparamo nirmacharanam satam vidyam vastavamatra vastu shivadham tapatrayan mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Vaparayarishvara Sadyo Hridya Hrudyate Trakriti Bi Shushrushabhishtakshanat. Translation. This is an important one. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavat Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. I'm just going to read one of those sentences again. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Purport. Religion includes 4 primary subjects, namely pious activities, economic development, satisfaction of the senses, and finally liberation from material bondage. Irreligious life is a barbarous condition. Indeed, human life begins when religion begins. Eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating are the 4 principles of animal life. These are common both to animals and to human beings, but religion is the extra function of the human being. Without religion, human life is no better than animal life. Therefore, in human societies, there is some form of religion which aims at self-realization and which makes reference to man's eternal relationship with God. In the lower stages of human civilization, there is always competition to lord it over the material nature, or, in other words, there's a continuous rivalry to satisfy the senses. Driven by such consciousness, man turns to religion. He thus performs pious activities or religious functions in order to gain something material. But if such material gains are obtainable in other ways, then so-called religion is neglected. This is the situation in modern civilization. Man is thriving economically, so at present he is not very interested in religion. Churches, mosques, or temples are now practically vacant. Men are more interested in factories, shops, and cinemas than in religious places which were erected by their forefathers. This practically proves that religion is performed for some economic gains. Economic gains are needed for sense gratification. Often when one is baffled in the pursuit of sense gratification, he takes to salvation and tries to become one with the Supreme Lord. Consequently, all these states are simply different types of sense gratification. In the Vedas, the above-mentioned 4 activities are prescribed in the regulative way so that there will not be any undue competition for sense gratification. But Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental to all these sense gratificatory activities. It is purely transcendental literature, which can be understood only by the pure devotees of the Lord who are transcendental to competitive sense gratification. In the material world, there is keen competition between animal and animal, man and man, community and community, nation and nation. But the devotees of the Lord rise above such competitions. They do not compete with the materialists because they are on the path back to Godhead where life is eternal and blissful. Such transcendentalists are non-envious and pure in heart. In the material world, everyone is envious of everyone else, and therefore there is competition. But the transcendental devotees of the Lord are not only free from material envy, but are well-wishers to everyone. And they strive to establish a competitionless society with God in the center. The contemporary socialist conception of a competitionless society is artificial because in the socialist state there is competition for the post of dictator. From the point of view of the Vedas or from the point of view of common human activities, sense gratification is the basis of material life. There are 3 paths mentioned in the Vedas. One involves fruitive activities to gain promotion to better planets. Another involves worshiping different demigods for promotion to the planets of the demigods. And another involves realizing the absolute truth and his impersonal feature and becoming one with him. The impersonal aspect of the absolute truth is not the highest. Above the impersonal feature is the Paramatma feature, and above this is the personal Haribo Bhaktasi Hare Krishna. Welcome to you.
Adi.
Okay. And above this is the personal feature of the Absolute Truth, or Bhagavan. Srimad Bhagavatam gives information about the Absolute Truth and his personal feature. It is higher than impersonalist literatures and higher than the Jnanakand division of the Vedas. It is even higher than the Karmakand division, and even higher than the Upasanakand division, because it recommends the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. In the Karmakand, there is competition to reach heavenly planets for better sense gratification, and there is similar competition in the Jnanakand and the Upasanakand. The Srimad Bhagavatam is superior to all of these because it aims at the Supreme Truth, which is the substance or the root of all categories. From Srimad Bhagavatam, one can come to know the substance as well as the categories. The substance is the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Lord, and all emanations are relative forms of energy. Nothing is apart from the substance, but at the same time the energies are different from the substance. This conception is not contradictory. Srimad Bhagavatam explicitly promulgates this simultaneously one and different philosophy of the Vedanta Sutra, which begins with the Janmadhyasya Sutra. This knowledge that the energy of the Lord is simultaneously one with and different from the Lord is an answer to the mental speculator's attempt to establish the energy as the absolute. When this knowledge is factually understood, one sees the conceptions of monism and dualism to be imperfect. Development of this transcendental consciousness, grounded in the conception of simultaneously one and different, leads one immediately to the stage of freedom from the threefold miseries. The threefold miseries are: 1, those miseries which arise from the mind and body; 2, those miseries inflicted by other living beings; and 3, those miseries arising from natural catastrophes over which one has no control. Hi, Bo. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the surrender of the devotee unto the Absolute Person. The devotee is fully aware that he is one with the Absolute and at the same time in the eternal position of servant to the Absolute. In the material conception, one falsely thinks himself the Lord of all he surveys, and therefore he is always troubled by the threefold miseries of life. But as soon as one comes to know his real position as transcendental servant, he at once becomes free from all miseries. As long as the living entity is trying to master material nature, there is no possibility of his becoming servant of the Supreme. Service to the Lord is rendered in pure consciousness of one's spiritual identity. By service, one is immediately freed from material encumbrances. Over and above this, Srimad Bhagavatam is a personal commentation on the Vedanta Sutra by Sri Vyasadeva. It was written in the maturity of his spiritual life through the mercy of Narada. Sri Vyasadeva is the authorized incarnation of Narayan, the personality of Godhead. Therefore, there is no question as to his authority. He is the author of all other Vedic literatures, yet he recommends the study of Srimad Bhagavatam above all others. In other Puranas, there are different methods set forth by which one can worship the demigods. But in the Bhagavatam only the Supreme Lord is mentioned. The Supreme Lord is the total body, and the demigods are the different parts of that body. Consequently, by worshiping the Supreme Lord, one does not need to worship the demigods. The Supreme Lord becomes fixed in the heart of the devotee immediately. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has recommended the Srimad Bhagavatam as the spotless Purana and distinguishes it from all other Puranas. The proper method for receiving this transcendental message is to hear it submissively. A challenging attitude cannot help one realize this transcendental message. One particular word is used herein for proper guidance. This word is shu. One must be anxious to hear this transcendental message. The desire to
Can
sincerely
I
hear
say
it.
something real quick?
Yes,
So it's just fixed in the heart immediately?
correct.
So they're saying devotional service or bhakti fixes Krishna in the heart immediately.
The Supreme Lord is the total body, and the demigods are the different parts of that body. Consequently, by worshiping the Supreme Lord, one does not need to worship the demigods. The Supreme Lord becomes fixed in the heart of the devotee immediately. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has recommended the Srimad Bhagavatam as the spotless Purana and distinguishes it from all other Puranas. Sorry, what exactly was your question?
It says immediately fixed in the heart. Yet I'm
Correct.
still sitting here all like unappreciative of Krishna and all of his grace. And you know, so it seems like a kind of a crazy statement. Like not, of course I believe it, but it's just like, wow, that's kind of a shock to the system. I don't exactly see it. What exactly does that mean?
Well, by hearing, you can have faith that he's established there, even if you don't see it. But we can aspire to directly perceive and see it,
Okay.
if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing and very subtle. And really, only by Krishna's grace can one have any level of perception of him and of him in the heart. I know that is a big interest and theme of yours, Prabhuji, the Lord in the heart.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a bhakta and I was about to get initiated, I was trying to like guess like what is my name gonna be, and trying to like guess what could it be, what could it be, and then I think the name I wanted, or there was, yeah, one name that I wanted for some reason was Chaitya Guru Das, which means servant of the Lord in the heart. I was very much interested in this concept of Paramatma connecting with the Lord in the heart, pursuing that personal, directly perceivable connection there. So it's an appealing topic, but it may come. Realization and direct perception may come, it may go. But over time, as we get tested and as we're practicing at least, and then over time continuing to practice, uh, Krishna more and more reveals what we need. And sometimes, well, not just what we need, but maybe he'll give us also a little extra, a little bonus here and there. Watching
Yeah,
us.
yeah. These topics stick out like a sore thumb to me about the heart and about desirousness and about just like attraction to the holy name. Like ever since it was probably by your grace, because it was really ever since I started listening to you seriously, all these things just started like mattering a lot more to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so many different aspects, but as far as my understanding is, and I'm inviting everyone to correct me also, but it's really the essence of Krishna consciousness is our desire and the contents of our heart. Krishna consciousness really is an affair of the heart. So many rules and regulations are there to help us achieve basically love for Krishna in our heart, or uncover it at least.
Yes.
And the rules and regulations and everything, even Krishna becomes subservient to the pure love of his devotees. So it's at least an aspect that we can try to remember and not forget, because there may be a tendency in some circles to forget that and focus more on like external applications or rules and regulations, and one can get burned out, and then start devotional service can start feeling like a burden, and it's actually really subtle, because we might even be approaching it consciously, like, okay, I'm going to do this from my heart or whatever. But even in due course of time, like that'll get tested to like how much really is it coming from my heart? If everything else is stripped away, am I still gonna just choose to chant, or at least still keep trying, or just keep going, or you know, Krishna might give us some situations that really reveal, how strong or how weak my devotional service is, or my hearing and chanting is, or like something happens, and do I immediately go to chanting, or do I say 5 curse words first, and then get upset, and then calm down, then start chanting, or whatever it is,
Right.
So, these things are all revealed as over in time as we go on chanting.
Would you say that such purification is always available?
It's certainly available.
Yeah, I would think so.
It is. But purification also comes in different forms. A lot of times we're getting purification, but it's hard for us to see it as
Yeah,
such. To understand how to respond to things.
yeah,
It takes training, practice, realization. But Krishna is, as far as we're desiring, he's always right there. right there in the heart, like a bird sitting on the branch watching the other bird, you, eating the fruits, just waiting for us to turn towards him, and any little tiny speck of desire that we muster up towards turning to him, he's right there reciprocating at every step, within and without, as Prabhupada says, from within and also on the outside, in the phenomenal world. So I think like the concept of the Lord in the heart, we tend to look like try to perceive within our heart, but part of that also is how we're perceiving the world around us too, because the Lord in the heart may
Yeah.
reciprocate even with circumstances, if that makes sense, and from within and without.
So if I'm looking like a lot of times, I'm just looking without to see Krishna. I'm looking at the circumstance. I'm looking at the car in front of the garage, and I'm looking at the uh, way I'm feeling with my nose being stuffed up and the way that's purifying me and like different ailments. Mostly ailments. I'm mostly looking toward ailments and thinking about how they're purifying me. What other ways? Because you mentioned you can also look within the heart. Can you like diversify my palette quickly and show me these like different ways to look for Krishna and things?
Well, yeah, same thing that you're doing, except just extend it beyond ailments and things to the situation right now, whatever it may be. And, like maybe I'm in a cycle, maybe I have a routine going on in my everyday life, in a deeper way. Uh, like looking at that, like, okay, what is Krishna trying to teach me with this arrangement right now, with this, or, just this kind of
Yeah.
exploration of anything and everything. Whatever
Yes.
habits you do, whatever thoughts you're having, whatever desires are coming up in your heart, we can approach them all with an open mind and a question of, okay, where is Krishna in this, or what am I supposed to learn from this, or you know, in this kind of mood. It's really only limited to you and your creativity of applying the principle.
Okay, that all sounds good.
So
Also, what about looking within the heart? What exactly does that mean to perceive Krishna in the heart? Like, because you mentioned you can also do that as opposed to just looking at without.
what's it mean?
Yeah.
Well, there's different ways someone might answer that, but you know, in the 9 processes of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smarnam, Padasevanam, Vandanam, Archanam, Dashyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. Sakyam means entering into fraternity with the Lord or friendship. And I heard this explained one time by a senior sannyasi that making friendship with Krishna means preaching. And my understanding was basically by serving him intimately like that. And there's a lot that can be said behind that. But basically, the sum and substance of, aspiring to serve the Lord and becoming friendly with the Lord means basically preaching, preaching Srimad Bhagavatam. So, I'll kind of bring that back to your question of, um, like trying to perceive the Lord in the heart and whatnot. Basically, the practical step is by serving the Lord. Because we may want to perceive the Lord in our heart for some selfish reason. You know, maybe I want to, I want to cross into some mystical experience, or something like that, or whatever the intention may be. I'm not saying yours is. I'm just saying in general. But the very intention, if it's not free from personal motive, then basically we're blocking ourselves from actually being able to perceive the Lord. And really the only way is the Lord. He has to reveal Himself to you. And the way you can entice Him to do that is by selflessly serving Him best we can. And He reciprocates. So basically, what it means to perceive the Lord in the heart is basically to serve the Lord and his devotees. And then Krishna reveals, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajyatam priti porvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam enamam upayantite. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love and devotion, I give the understanding or the perception by which they can come to me or be conscious of me, perceive me. So,
Very nice. Okay.
just some thoughts. Jai. Thank you for your
Very
question.
nice. Thank you. You're the best.
Hare Krishna.
You're my buddy after all.
Jai. The day was a success after all. All right. The proper method for receiving this transcendental message is to hear it submissively. A challenging attitude cannot help one realize this transcendental message. One particular word is used herein for proper guidance. This word is shu, shru, shu. One must be anxious to hear this transcendental message. I always imagine like the little kid in the Toys R Us. He's like really wants this toy, and then the mom says no, and he just like throws a fit, like maybe even like just falls down on the ground, like throwing a temper tantrum, fall on his butt, and like flails his arms and just cries. I always imagine like this is the mood, this is how anxious we should be to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Imagine like, okay, we got the Zoom call at 5:30 and you're there already, and if I don't start the call at 5:30, then then the devotees, imagine that's how they react. Like, I wanted to read, I want to hear, and like really throw a temper tantrum. Anyway, one must be anxious to hear this transcendental message. The desire to sincerely hear is the first qualification. Less fortunate persons are not at all interested in hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. The process is simple, but the application is difficult. Unfortunate people find enough time to hear idle social and political conversations, but when invited to attend a meeting of devotees to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, they suddenly become reluctant. Sometimes professional readers of the Bhagavatam immediately plunge into the confidential topics of the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, which they seemingly interpret as sex literature. Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to be heard from the beginning. Those who are fit to assimilate this work are mentioned in this shloka. One becomes qualified to hear Srimad Bhagavatam after many pious deeds. The intelligent person with thoughtful discretion can be assured by the great sage Vyasadeva that he can realize the Supreme Personality directly. Here, Hare Krishna, here's the answer. The intelligent person with thoughtful discretion can be assured by the great sage Vyasadeva that he can realize the Supreme Personality directly by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Without undergoing the different stages of realization set forth in the Vedas, one can be lifted immediately to the position of Paramahamsa simply by agreeing to receive this message. Hare Krishna. It's so simple you might just miss it.
Thank you.
Okay. Nigamakalpataror galitam phalam Sukhamukadamritadrava samyutam Pibatta bhagavatam rasamalayam Muhurahura sikhabu vibhavukaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Shukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Purport. In the two previous shlokas, it has been definitely proved that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the sublime literature which surpasses all other Vedic literatures or scriptures due to its transcendental qualities. It is transcendental to all mundane activities and mundane knowledge. In this shloka, it is stated that Srimad Bhagavatam is not only a superior literature, but is the ripened fruit of all Vedic literatures. In other words, it is the cream of all Vedic knowledge. Considering all this, patient and submissive hearing is definitely essential. With great respect and attention, one should receive the message and lessons imparted by the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Vedas are compared to the desire tree because they contain all things knowable by man. They deal with mundane necessities as well as spiritual realization. The Vedas contain regulated principles of knowledge covering social, political, religious, economic, military, medicinal, chemical, physical, and metaphysical subject matter, and all that may be necessary to keep the body and soul together. Above and beyond all this are specific directions for spiritual realization. Regulated knowledge involves a gradual raising of the living entity to the spiritual platform. And the highest spiritual realization is knowledge that the personality of Godhead is the reservoir of all spiritual tastes or rasas. Every living entity, beginning from Brahma, the firstborn living being within the material world, down to the insignificant ant, desires to relish some sort of taste derived from sense perceptions. The sensual pleasures are technically called rasas. Such rasas are of different varieties. In the revealed scriptures, the following 12 varieties of rasas are enumerated. 1. Raudra, anger. 2. Adbhuta, wonder. Shringar, conjugal love. Hasya, comedy. Vira, chivalry. Daya, mercy. Dasya, servitorship. Sakya, fraternity. Bhayanaka, horror. Bibhatsa, shock. Shanta, neutrality. And Vatsalya, parenthood. The sum total of all these rasas is called affection or love. Primarily, such signs of love are manifested in adoration, service, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love. And when these 5 are absent, the love is present indirectly in anger, wonder, comedy, chivalry, fear, shock, and so on. For example, when a man is in love with a woman, the rasa is called conjugal love. But when such love affairs are disturbed, there may be wonder, anger, shock, or even horror. Sometimes love affairs between two persons culminate in ghastly murder scenes. Such rasas are displayed between man and between animal and animal. There's no possibility of an exchange or rasa between a man and an animal or between a man and any other species of living beings within the material world. The rasas are exchanged between members of the same species. Hare Krishna. But as far as the spirit souls are concerned, they are one qualitatively with the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the rasas were originally exchanged between the spiritual living being and the spiritual whole, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The spiritual exchange, or rasa, is fully exhibited in spiritual existence between living beings and the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is therefore described in the Shruti mantras, Vedic hymns, as the fountainhead of all rasas. When one associates with the Supreme Lord and exchanges one's constitutional rasa with the Lord, then the living being is actually happy. These Shruti mantras indicate that every living being has its constitutional position, which is endowed with a particular type of rasa to be exchanged with the personality of Godhead. In the liberated condition only, this primary rasa is experienced in full. In the material existence, the rasa is experienced in the perverted form, which is temporary. And thus, the rasas of the material world are exhibited in the material form of raudra, anger, and so on. Therefore, one who attains full knowledge of these different rasas, which are the basic principles of activities, can understand the false representations of the original rasas, which are reflected in the material world. The learned scholar seeks to relish the real rasa in the spiritual form. In the beginning, he desires to become one with the Supreme. Thus, less intelligent transcendentalists cannot go beyond this conception of becoming one with the spirit whole without knowing of the different rasas. In this shloka, it is definitely stated that spiritual rasa, which is relished even in the liberated stage, can be experienced in the literature of the Srimad Bhagavatam due to its being the ripened fruit of all Vedic knowledge. By submissively hearing this transcendental literature, one can attain the full pleasure of his heart's desire. Hare Krishna. But one must be very careful to hear the message from the right source. Srimad Bhagavatam is exactly received from the right source. It was brought by Narada Muni from the spiritual world and given to his disciple Sri Vyasadeva. The latter in turn delivered the message to his son Srila Shukadeva Goswami, and Srila Shukadeva Goswami delivered the message to Maharaj Parikshit just 7 days before the king's death. Srila Shukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul from his very birth. He was liberated even in the womb of his mother, and he did not undergo any sort of spiritual training after his birth. At birth, no one is qualified, neither in the mundane nor in the spiritual sense. But Sri Shukadeva Goswami, due to his being a perfectly liberated soul, did not have to undergo an evolutionary process for spiritual realization. Yet, despite his being a completely liberated person situated in the transcendental position above the three material modes, he was attracted to this transcendental rasa of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is adored by liberated souls who sing Vedic hymns. The Supreme Lord's pastimes are more attractive to liberated souls than to mundane people. He is of necessity not impersonal because it is only possible to carry on transcendental rasa with a person. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are narrated, and the narration is systematically depicted by Srila Shukadeva Goswami. Thus, the subject matter is appealing to all classes of persons, including those who seek liberation and those who seek to become one with the Supreme Whole. In Sanskrit, the parrot is known as shuka. When a ripened fruit is cut by the red beaks of such birds, its sweet flavor is enhanced. The Vedic fruit, which is mature and ripe in knowledge, is spoken through the lips of Srila Shukadeva Goswami, who is compared to the parrot not for his ability to recite the Bhagavatam exactly as he heard it from his learned father, but for his ability to present the work in a manner that would appeal to all classes of men. The subject matter is so presented through the lips of Srila Shukadeva Goswami that any sincere listener that hears submissively can at once relish transcendental tastes which are distinct from the perverted taste of the material world. The ripened fruit is not dropped all of a sudden from the highest planet of Krishna Loka. Rather, it has come down carefully through the chain of disciplic succession without change or disturbance. Foolish people who are not in the transcendental disciplic succession commit great blunders by trying to understand the highest transcendental rasa known as the rasa dance without following in the footsteps of Shukadeva Goswami, who presents this fruit very carefully by sages of transcendental realization. One should be intelligent enough to know the position of Srimad Bhagavatam by considering personalities like Shukadeva Goswami, who deals with the subject so carefully. This process of disciplic succession of the Bhagavat school suggests that in the future also, Srimad Bhagavatam has to be understood from a person who is factually a representative of Srila Shukadeva Goswami. A professional man who makes a business out of reciting the Bhagavatam illegally is certainly not a representative of Shukadeva Goswami. Such a man's business is only to earn his livelihood. Therefore, one should refrain from hearing the lectures of such professional men. Such men usually go to the most confidential part of the literature without undergoing the gradual process of understanding this grave subject. They usually plunge into the subject matter of the rasa dance, which is misunderstood by the foolish class of men. Some of them take this to be immoral, while others try to cover it up by their own stupid interpretations. They have no desire to follow in the footsteps of Srila Shukadeva Goswami. One should conclude, therefore, that the serious student of the rasa should receive the message of Bhagavatam in the chain of disciplic succession from Srila Shukadeva Goswami, who describes the Bhagavatam from its very beginning and not whimsically to satisfy the mundaner who has very little knowledge in transcendental science. Srimad Bhagavatam is so carefully presented that a sincere and serious person can at once enjoy the ripened fruit of Vedic knowledge simply by drinking the nectarian juice through the mouth of Shukadeva Goswami or his bona fide representative. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Shukadeva Goswami ki jai.
Jay.
Go to Premanande.
Hari Bo.
Well, you should become a student of the rasa and hear Srimad Bhagavatam submissively and sincerely, and everything will be revealed. I remember Srila Prabhupada, I heard from senior devotees who were present when he was basically on his deathbed.
Oh.
The instruction was go on hearing and discussing Srimad Bhagavatam amongst yourselves daily, and everything will remain clear. Bhagavatam is so powerful. Hare Krishna. Yeah, hearing this today is like super duper enlivening and encouraging, reminding us, the potency of basically just hearing and how essential it is, just doing what we're doing, so encouraging and simple and nice the process is, Any reflections, questions, comments? Anybody? Anything we heard that grabbed you?
Student of the rasa dance.
Well, of the rasa.
Rasa.
But yeah, rasa dance, but yeah, the 12 rasas.
Right.
Anger,
okay.
wonder, conjugal love, comedy, chivalry, mercy, servitorship, fraternity, horror, shock, neutrality, and kindred. And the five are primary, 7 are secondary. The 5 primary are neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parental, and conjugal love. Those are the 5 primary rasas. Prabhupada explained how, how did he put it? He said, essentially, he was talking about the main ingredient is affection or love, and then the 5 primary are like the love and the affection is expressed directly in the 5 primary rasas, and then the love is present indirectly in the 7 secondary rasas. So it's an interesting detail. And basically what he said was, we should become a student. Well, actually, one thing he said was, like these rasas are also present in the material world.
Right.
but they're in their perverted form. And he said that, one who becomes a student of the rasa, basically we can study the mundane version of the rasas and actually understand how it's a reflection or a glimpse. And, we can actually, introspect, observe these mundane rasas, and then learn and enter into deeper understanding into actual transcendental rasa by starting at least by introspecting and observing the perverted reflection of the rasas. But of course,
My
the difference is that one is the perverted reflection of the perverted form of the rasas are basically just me acting selfishly, basically, for sense gratification. And whereas, the spiritual rasas are adorned with love and affection for Krishna.
Can two devotees have it be in a spiritual rasa because they're not acting selfishly in the relationship?
It's true, because Krishna is in the center of the relationship. Because,
Yes. Okay.
yeah, Krishna is in the center of the devotees' lives. And well, devotees, relationship with devotees are very special because, um, well, for many reasons, but, there may be a aspect of growth and development and purification and the uncovering of one's relationship with Krishna through the relationships with the devotees. So it's like a special. We tend, all devotees are special, and we may have some kind of relationship with devotees in general, but every devotee at some point really develops deep, or should at least develop really deep spiritual relationship with another devotee. That typically does happen for devotees. At some point, it might take some time, but and those relationships reveal themselves as one of the most, if not literally the most valuable asset in devotional service. Yeah.
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 I I'm wondering how do you get to? I want to get to it. I want to like start looking at random things in the material world and thinking of the rasa there. And is it that everything is endowed with a rasa?
Well, he said that rasas are exchanged between this with other people
Okay.
of the same species of you. So yeah, that's what he said. He said the
Awesome.
rasas are exchanged between members of the same species. You know, there's no possibility of an exchange of rasa between a man and an animal, or between a man and any other species of living beings within the material world. So, one might ask, well, what about the dog? I feel like I'm experiencing a rasa with my dog. Well, according to what we're reading here, not exactly. But then the other factor may come up of, well, you know, when you're talking about devotees, it's uh, there's this one astrologer that did not like doing readings for devotees because I think they were maybe like they read palms or something like that, and they said I don't like reading for devotees because Krishna can just change it, and so devotees, obviously there was some special relationship between like the dog with Shivananda Sain and like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and there are it's not just like a materialistic person in a human body trying to exchange rasa with just an animal completely devoid of devotional service. But when you start bringing in devotional service and Krishna consciousness, um, then you're getting lifted off of the mundane platform and into the spiritual energy. So, it's it seems clear cut, but there's always an exception to the rule, you know. So that's always also to be remembered. Simultaneously one and different. Yeah. But one thing we're hearing is basically we're being given some really high and deep understandings of certain things, but we're also being given a practical process of how to get there, which is basically submissively hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting Hare Krishna, hearing and chanting. It's very simple. It's just a matter of remembering that and keeping doing it, especially with, like Prabhupada said, a routine program every day. It becomes extremely powerful. Yeah, especially early morning japa, little kirtan. Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Can you
And
give me an example or
sorry.
two of, sorry, can I ask something else again? Does anyone
Yeah,
else have something?
please.
Okay, so, uh, like, can you give me like an example of a certain, I just want to be for sure. Maybe I should read Nectar of Devotion, but I want to like think about examples of rasas, and I want to hear it from you because you've probably done this more than I have, trying to identify them.
Examples of rasas.
Yeah, and the material world,
Uh,
perverted rasas.
Sure, when you're driving on the interstate and then you're driving in the passing lane and then somebody is coming up behind you fast and then they are really close to your bumper and they want to pass but you just won't get over. And then they get very angry and start yelling at you. That is anger.
I didn't think about the seven ones. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But, you know, anger can be there in a spiritual way too. And the material anger really does, generally speaking, there's no benefit. You know, it's can cause harm to all parties. A lot of times, one time I heard when we get angry, basically we punish ourselves for something somebody else did or something. You know, it's not a pleasant experience for the most part. You know, they can have a positive application, like if you're protecting somebody. You know, if somebody like breaks into your house and is trying to harm your family or something, you should get angry and you know, protect them. That is good. But generally, like with material anger, it basically fogs our intelligence and just brings us down into complete material consciousness and doesn't really help anybody. Whereas spiritual anger leaves everyone benefited and pleased ultimately. Um, because it's in service of Krishna. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if that really answered your question, but yeah, friendship, pretty much all exchanges between human beings there's some rasa going on. You know, neutrality. You know, like you go into the grocery store and there's people and you just walk by them and you're trying to shop for uh, vegetables and there's some lady standing there right where you need to go and you're kind of hovering around each other for a second. You're kind of like neutral. You're not. You're just kind of focused on the uh, whatever you're doing, but there's still some like rasa between you and this other human being going on.
And you're positing that there's constantly a rasa like that between people.
Yeah, because uh, that's part of what it means to be a person. You know, that's our um, constitution. Is the soul is always active. There's always some rasa going on. Yeah.
Mm.
Otherwise, otherwise we would be impersonal.
Stop it.
Yeah.
But the question is whether or not whether the rasa is perverted or pure, or material or spiritual. It's just like the mind, you know. Prabhupada explains that you can't blank the mind out. It's always active. That's why we're practicing like active meditation of devotional service. You might be able to blank your mind out for like a very short time, but it, it its nature is to be very active, and you can't stop it for very long before it takes its natural position of engaging. So that's how our nature is with rasa, if that makes sense.
I see. Yeah. And within material relationships, it can be any of the 12. It's not just the five, or just the seven. It's all 12.
Oh yeah, sure can.
Great.
This is actually what everyone's chasing after, is rasa. And I was thinking about this a little bit recently, like in our society here. It's like everybody has a job, and people have so much things they're doing, and everybody's got to have like a partner and like some like love interest, basically, like most people. Well, and even some people might have. Let me see here. Uh, Maybe you can consider it like a neutral rasa towards it, where they've like, yeah, I'm indifferent, I'm neutral, I don't really need a partner or whatever. It's still rasa going on. But especially, uh, you know, people with people, like everyone's really, they're trying to taste rasa. That's like subconsciously. That's how we understand is like how to enjoy. You know. Going out with friends, go meet people, and get or have your intimate associates close, or your one friend, or whatever. Some kind of rasa going on. Yeah, and even if it's not like within physical proximity, from a distance. Rasa from a distance.
Very nice.
Hare Krishna.
I'm a
Yeah, the
student of the
sum
Lord.
total of all these rasas is called affection or love. Yeah, primarily such signs of love are manifested in adoration, service, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love. And when these five are absent, love is present indirectly in the other ones. This is also like if you ever had like someone pass away. I don't know, like someone close, or even someone like maybe what do they call it when you're like them, but they're not really quite a friend. They're a acquaintance.
Yeah.
Even like an acquaintance, like if you're in a school and there's some acquaintance, sort of, you don't really hang out with them. Maybe you just see them here and there in the hallway or something, but maybe you've exchanged some words. Even if someone who's not so close to you like passes away, you still feel like some separation. A lot of times there's a deeper current of love flowing in these rasas that we subconsciously and automatically like extend our heart into them, even if we don't realize. Like a lot of times it takes a person passing away for someone to realize, wow, I didn't realize I felt so strongly about them until they died.
Yeah.
Sometimes
So
it's like that.
it's like if we have one of these five rasas for someone, or one of these, I forget. There, you said some. What were those five that you listed again? About there was like some rule that you gave, and there's like five of them that were, and on that we're out of that rule or something.
adoration, service, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love. Love is present directly in those. And then whenever those are absent, then the love is indirectly present in anger, wonder, comedy, chivalry, fear, shock, and so on.
Wow. That's so cool. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so wait, that guy who's driving behind you and he's angry, is that if that's indirectly love, question mark?
Uh, well, it depends how you look at it. I mean, I guess the way I'll try to explain that is it's kind of like this. There's a certain, well, there's also the concept of, well, in the material world, there is no real love, it's all perverted. But basically, the concept of if you're like in a relationship with somebody, not necessarily like a spouse, but just anybody. Um, Basically, like to get angry shows that you care to some degree, whereas sometimes people get mad because the other person just won't react. Like they're just completely,
Yeah.
what's the word you use? Starts with an A. Apathetic.
Apathetic. Maybe.
It's like for me to get upset. Sometimes partners will specifically do something just to try to like upset their partner just to see that they are like that they care or that they're attached in some perverted way or whatever. So in that kind of way, in the material world, these rasas, that's the thing, is that they're perverted reflections of the actual rasa. So it's not that
Right.
the guy, flipping you off and cursing at you with the car is loving you by doing that. But in the pure form of the rasa, the love will be there indirectly. So I don't know if that makes sense. But because of our spiritual nature, where there's a perverted form of something, it's it's not so far from the pure thing actually being right there at your fingertips, if that makes sense.
Not
Just
so
like the
far.
material
So,
world, with just a simple shift of perception, the whole material world, you can directly perceive and experience it as transcendental, connected to the Lord.
like, and you're saying that the perverted expression is like instead of loving, you know, instead of love, the love is expressed as a desire for that spot in the lane. Is that right?
Not necessarily. I mean, you can say
Okay.
in the material expression of the rasas, it's actually more like enviousness, not love.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to express about the spiritual um, nature of love and our spiritual nature is like, like if some guy's behind you flipping, like angry because you're inconveniencing him by driving slow in the passing lane. If something happened and you got in a wreck and he saw you like get into a very violent wreck, most likely that guy would not be. He would be. Maybe some cases, some people are crazy and they, you know, be happy about it, but not really. Most people, if you see something like gnarly bad happen to a person, you feel bad for them. It's like it's a natural, um, there's a natural connectedness, you know, between living entities, especially human beings. Nobody really wants to see something bad happening to somebody else. Only whenever they're like just really conditioned, or what have you. But even still, then oftentimes I like McGrary the Hunter. I think he was like hunting animals and purposely leaving them half dead because that's how he was taught. And then, even he had the potential to become a completely nonviolent, basically a saintly person. So the potential is there. But anyway, I don't know if I'm making this any clearer to you, but just to simplify it, perverted reflection rasas, the love is not there. The pure form, the love is there.
How is it so? But it isn't. It's like what exactly? What exactly is the connection then between them? Like, you know what I mean? If you're angry, that's envy. But he said it was like indirectly love or something like that.
It's perverted. Excuse me.
I'm confused about the exact connection.
Well, Prabhupada said that everybody in the material world is confusing lust with love, and
Yeah.
anger comes from unsatisfied lust desires. So
Okay.
that would be the connection, if that makes
I
sense.
see. Okay. That helps me. I appreciate it. It's like I know, but then I have to ask anyways. I don't really know. Anyways, I'm glad you're helping out with my
Yeah, I
funny
hope I am. I
questions.
don't know.
You absolutely are. You're helping me, buddy.
Yeah, yeah. Hare Krishna. Any other points from anybody here? Corrections?
I think that was a very, excuse me, Prabhu, Hare Krishna. I think that was a very valid point, like the difference in material love and spiritual. The idea, I mean, I wouldn't know because I'm not there yet, but I know in my own experience, I've seen people get angry, and I've told like my children, like that's not love, that's lust. So like it is said and it is true. I've seen it 100 times. Just thought I'd add.
Right. Well, even in a material way, also, like for example, like a child has a fork in their hand and they're going right for the electrical outlet, and they're about to shove it in there, and the parent might tell the kid like, "Don't do that," and then they keep going, and then they say, "No," and get a little, may express a little bit of anger, but there's love in it, kind of indirectly, because they don't want the baby to get shocked. So it's like trying to protect them sometimes. Sometimes parents
So
get,
like
huh?
the thing to look for is like the motive. It's always like the motive. That seems to be a very major theme in these Vaishnava in this literature in the whole of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. It seems that there's such a common motif of looking at the motive of why something is done. It's so important, especially in this context.
It is
Sorry to totally
true.
break away.
It is true. Um, yeah, but extending off of that is, you know, no matter what love we express separate from Krishna is going to be of a limited, not totally pure category. But even from like a mundane example, we can see the principle of, how the rasas are functioning, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Hare Krishna.
Hari.
Hare. I like the points about how Prabhupada said that love is like not pure in the material platform, it's all lust, and how that is what like leads to the anger and the frustration. When we like enjoy materially, it always leaves us wanting more. It leaves us unsatisfied typically for long periods of time. And I also liked how earlier we were talking about the question about Krishna being fixed in your heart immediately when you start hearing and like even when you start chanting and doing any sort of devotional service out of love. And even if we don't perceive it that way, it's still Krishna is like loving you and fixing your heart. And you even like it's almost like his ears perk up when you start like, doing devotional service through hearing and chanting.
What?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I heard of Vaisheshika Prabhu once. He was talking about chanting, and he is basically explaining that, like, like planes have these things. I think they're called transponders. And if you like get stranded or crash somewhere on some island, you can like turn the transponder on, and it puts off a signal of like distress. And then like they'll see somebody eventually. They'll see the signal from the transponder, and then they'll come and rescue you. So like when we're chanting japa, is like turning your transponder on.
Right. Totally. And you can feel it too. Like I use like mantra when I do feel like materially just like icky, I just like be like, ooh, I need to like I can feel all of this like bad energy on me, and I'll just start chanting and I'll immediately get some relief. Um and that's like another example of like Krishna being fixed in your heart. He's just there for you. He's always loving, he's not the one lusting and getting angry, getting frustrated, because he's just all spiritual love all the time.
Right. Right. And yeah, it is important to distinguish, uh, like there's like anger, like we were talking about. Uh, it's not that like necessarily in the material world, like we deem things like this is good and this is bad, and basically Prabhupada teaches it's not exactly always like that. Like there's a time when it's unfavorable or not good, not beneficial, bad, and then there may be even within the material world a different application of the same thing where it becomes favorable, or you know so like yeah, it's important to be able to distinguish, like, what's going on, and okay, is this favorable? Like, sometimes we might, we have so many conceptions and ideas, and we might justify so many things where it may not be a healthy situation, or, it's like our responsibility as individuals to, um, introspect and see within ourselves, and, work to, uh, like clean house within ourselves. We're not doing any, we're taking care of our own self, because you can only give what you have. If you're, unhealthy and mentally or whatever way, then, that's going to come out in unhealthy ways and unfavorable ways with others. But, yeah, but we can also, maybe we all have to different degrees, maybe some favorable, unfavorable tendencies, and that's a huge part of bhakti yoga, is introspecting, saying, okay, yeah, I definitely, I get a little angry sometimes. I could definitely, I could do a little bit of work in that area, and do some work or whatever it is. Maybe sometimes I get fearful and it holds me back from making decisions, or whatever. Maybe I get depressed and lazy, or whatever it is. We all generally have some kind of thing like that. And I'm a big advocate of the mood of self-care in devotional service. Like it's like part of our realizing, and you know our relationship with Krishna. But Krishna is the self of ourself, and like really, it's like the ultimate. Um, Krishna consciousness is also like realizing our body, our mind, and everything in connection with Krishna, and properly taking care of all those different things. So it's definitely important. Anyway, just throwing some last thoughts out there.
Yeah, that's why I tune into these readings, because it like keeps healthy spiritually and physically and mentally and all of it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I've been feeling depressed since Bhakti Adam left.
Mhm.
And, to get on here and have everybody, it's like, oh, wow. It immediately is like changes the mood. Like, oh, yeah, this is about to be ecstatic.
Totally, man. When we're
Now,
not here. Sorry,
how
I was
can
just
I
gonna say
possibly
even
miss another one of these meetings? Go
exactly.
ahead.
What's
Even
that?
meeting, even when I'm not at the meeting, even tuning in later on YouTube, it's just like the same kind of feeling. I'm just like so ecstatic that I get to just hear it. It's a great part of the day whenever I get to hear Bhagavatam and associate with you, hear your kirtan. It's nice.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, that's me too, Prabhuji. It's Prabhupada's potency.
Yeah, right.
Actually, we heard today, I might have been before you tuned in, I can't remember, but, it's a Shukadev Goswami. Because it's coming from his lips, it's even sweeter. Whenever it's touched, when the transcendental knowledge is passed down from acharya to acharya, it gets sweeter and sweeter every single time. So it's like definitely inexplicable sweetness in Srimad Bhagavatam. All right, Krishna.
Yeah.
I like your example yesterday with throwing the apples down at your brother versus handing them down.
Yeah. Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah, so glad you're participating, Prabhuji. So nice to have your association.
Oh, same. I'm so glad these are going on and available.
Definitely. Yeah. I think Kala G was about to share.
Yes, so grateful for your readings. Thank you for the association, everyone here. I was thinking about the point where, we're talking about love and how there are many reflections of it in the material world. But if we are coming from the point of knowing, Krishna in everyone's heart, or having the understanding of them being like Jiva soul, and these relationships, whether you have children or best, nice relationship with close devotee friends, relationship with your parents, these types of things, if we're really thinking about it in these ways, it can become something that's maybe not necessarily entirely a perverted reflection, or something that's like real in general. It's not based on lust. Even a conjugal relationship with people oftentimes can be much more than the physicalities of it. And yeah, so embracing that. And again, another thought was like about the empathy that we have, because we see so much in the material world where, even though people are oftentimes asleep, or, not able to be so conscious, we still have love for them, even if they're acting, more from the anartas of the heart or things like that. It's something
Right.
I'm trying to, feel more present with in general.
Prabhuji, do you have any realization of this phenomenon of, people, this is my observation, like people tend to subconsciously care about others more than they realize often.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I'm understanding it is like, uh, it's the subtle nature of the soul to, you know, like, there's like some attachment, but there's some affection subconsciously, just on a, base level of, while one might, some people, they say, okay, like other humans, and someone who might be a little bit more advanced in consciousness can see, other living entities, on the base level of, like being relation, like relating with them, you know. So it's like, anyway, I'm just kind of looking. I'm trying to think about the phenomenon of like, like daily interactions with people, and it might be like really limited, really short, or not so close. But then if somebody like at your workplace or something that you see here and there passes away, then you feel like something really heavy and strong. Like, wow, like how much you appreciated that person but didn't realize it. I think that's an interesting phenomenon.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, um, speaking of it in this way is like, we're all here in this human experience. Um, we have come to these bodies in different ways and our consciousness is different, but ultimately we are jiva souls. And even if we don't know that, we can still like, smiling to someone or doing the simplest things, letting someone in when there's a lot of traffic instead of pulling up and cutting them off, or opening the door for someone or offering to help carry something. These are ways that are like, showing that there can be loving exchanges with thoughtfulness. And, again, it is still the material world, but these are types of things that we can really, feel connected with. And there is the concepts of being like overly attached to, certain things, the individuals in our lives that are very close to us. But really, if we trust and we know, as we do, that Krishna is, taking care of everyone in every way, no matter what happens, we might still have emotion occur if we lose someone or if someone is upset, we can, feel that subtly, but we know that it's happening like with reason, and Krishna's, he's right there taking care of everyone. So if we bring it to our heart and bring that back, I think that makes a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really kind of depends on the consciousness of the individual, because somebody may be so like desensitized in some ways to certain things
Mm-hmm.
and not feel for others in the same way, but and then somebody else, like we can see something special and just the spiritual essence of living entities and like interacting with another living entity can be a very deep uh, like Krishna conscious experience, even if the other party is not really aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, some nice
Yeah. I
reflections.
have, I have one more little story. It was just, I was at temple today and, you know, the birds have been much more active as it's been warmer, but spring is here. And so I'm, walking in to take darshan and everything. And even though it was cold, there were several cardinals in these trees and they were, singing. And it was just, and I see all the rickshaws there. And, it's nice to be able to connect with those types of things as well, knowing that we're all part and parcel, you know. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you all. Appreciate it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Abel.
Well, we are. It's about that time. Unless anyone has anything pressing, I will end it here. Thank you all so much for sharing and hearing and being here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Jay.
Hey,
Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya
Vasudevaya.
Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki
yeah.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.